When we first heard this story, thought it was amazing. Yeah, 200 years ago, a tavern owner in the mountains of Vermont was robbing or possibly murdering patrons and hiding in his grave. We have arrived at an old stone foundation from a building. Another one of these piles of stacked stones.
No. What is that?
That's weird. The Bennington Triangle is a large tract of wilderness in Bennington County where numerous unexplained disappearances have occurred.
He claimed he was hearing voices from the forest.
So find the grave, find the treasure. We hope you'll join us next week when we begin the search for the Grave of Gold.
Wow, Tony, what do you think of that?
I'm heading out to go try and find this grave. that took me like what a great line. Find the grave.
Find the treasure. The intro was great, man. Like it sucked me right in. You know what I mean?
Gives me chills. Love it.
Well, hey, yeah, dude. Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to talk to Brad and Eddie tonight because this hooked me right away. Like a great hook, great intro. You know, I had to watch it as soon as it came out, and I had to get Brad on, man. It was like, yeah, come on, let's talk about this. Pretty amazing. But how you been, real quick? How you been? I do want to get to Brad and Eddie, by the way, definitely. But let's chat about how you been, real quick. How has been your week?
Good week so far. I mean, we had a heat wave come through, right? We're up into the 30s now. You can't complain about that.
Did you see my post on Facebook?
Yes.
We got down to -22 with a wind chill of -33, and I don't like that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Sure, right?
I was not. I was trying to protect my little dog from getting frostbite as he was going out to do his business.
That's one of the best stories is when you send your dog out. What was it the last time we had that huge snowstorm? Your dog went out to squat, and all of a sudden it's just like touching the snow.
Yeah, he didn't like that either. My neighbors think I'm crazy because I go out and like I'll scrape away a spot for him to go out and do it. It's only that high, you know what I mean? So, like,
that's awesome. No, but a little bit of a warmer streak this week. I don't think it's going to stick around. We're frozen ground. I'm not digging anymore down here.
Yeah, we got if we get to the mountains, the mountains, get through 2 feet of snow, maybe under the pine needles, the ground will be probably pretty soft, but. I don't know if I want to go through that kind of effort.
We'll take a trip. We'll get Cindy and we'll head up to those silver mining towns.
Hardcore.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Hardcore people. Who we got joining us tonight?
Well, geez, Bill Hayes. I barely beat Bill in. Welcome in, Bill. Adam Zajac. Welcome in, Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
Mr. Will Walsh of Relic Pirates. Hey, Will.
What's up,
Will's
Will?
Been real active since joining us a couple weeks ago. So
yeah.
Good to have you on here, Will. David Full Metal Digger, Rose. David Rose.
Hey, David. He's been putting out some great posts too, man.
Oh my gosh, always.
His relic room and his relics.
Always. Talk about nearly unlimited content. Jeez.
Yeah.
And incredible content too.
Dave, just let me come to your house and pull out my camera. I'll just spend a week there. We'll do info on each one of your relics. He's got a lot of that medieval stuff from back in Germany and over across the pond. And man, it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see Yartifact Diggers.
Yartifact Diggers. Welcome
Yartifact Diggers. Brendan Knutson.
Nice.
Welcome. Bandito.
Bandito.
And XX Marcia Spot.
Hey, Mark.
Good to see everyone. Yeah. Good to see everyone. How are the chickens doing? I ask you about that all the time.
You know what?
Tony's on a chicken ranch.
So we had the one day, you had said it was -30 something. I think it was -26 down where we're at.
Yeah.
And they survived. No issues, no problems at all. They're all good. We've created and purchased and brought in all cold weather, high altitude chickens that survive out there and stuff. So they all survived. Now we haven't gotten eggs in a week, but
right.
which happens. And when you're in the egg selling business and you don't have product, it makes it a little tough. But hopefully this warm weather this week, they'll start to get back on track, and I'll get those sales back out to all the customers that are knocking down my door right now.
And then, are you going to travel over to Chicago? Bring Dave some eggs?
Yeah,
we can
always.
visit his relic room.
Always. I'm always. Anytime I stop by your house, I've got eggs or a frozen chicken, right?
You do, and I love it. Hey, come visit again. Come on up. I never bring you stuff like that when I come down south to see you.
Well, that's, you know what,
I need to change that. I need to bring you oranges or something.
You got permissions, is what. That's all I want. Permissions. I'm buttering you up with eggs.
I see.
Yeah.
It's a good trade. Eggs for permissions. That's a good trade.
Right?
Hey, let's get to Brad and Eddie. I want to talk to them about this Grave of Gold, because the last series they did you watch the last season? The Vault of the Grau?
So I watched it originally, and then I had some spare hours today, and I went back and watched all 10 episodes back to back. Just binge watched it.
Wow.
And I tell you, getting psyched for this series coming out right now.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, there's only been one episode out, but talk about like grabbing you and just sucking you in.
Yeah. And before we bring them on real quick, I just want to remind everybody, if you happen to be catching the podcast later, on the download, right down below in the description of the podcast, we have all of Brad and Eddie's links to not only Green Mountain Metal Detecting, but also the Grave of Gold season 1, episode 1. So you can head over there and check that out. Also on Green Mountain Metal Detecting's Facebook is links right down below. And throughout the show tonight, down in the comments section, we'll be posting links out as we go through the show too, just to make it a little easier for you to go on and head over there and check that out. You're going to enjoy that. That episode 1 was great, and I can't wait to see how this thing progresses. But go ahead and bring them on, Tony. Let's bring Brad and Eddie on.
Season 7, episode 9. We've got Brad and Eddie. You guys know them from Green Mountain Metal Detecting on YouTube and Facebook, and stars of the brand new series, Grave of Gold. Guys, thanks for coming on. We're so happy to have you guys on.
Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having us. Thanks for all the kind words. Very appreciative.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I've never
and
been
Eddie, glad
before.
you could. I know.
Eddie is
Get used to it, man. Get used to it. That trailer was epic. Done very well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So I mean, we came across this news story when we were doing DeGrau. My best tool is newspapers.com. It's a subscription service. It costs money, but you can just type anything into the search bar and it searches through the whole world's newspapers for keywords. And we were doing DeGrau, and I was like, Vermont treasure, and this thing popped up. And I was like, I cannot wait to finish this DeGrau thing so that we can start on the next one. This crazy serial killer tavern owner in 1820 hoarding the money and burying it on his land, possibly in his grave.
Yeah. Crazy. Like, that had to grab you right away, and I agree. I haven't got that prescription to newspapers.com. I need to, because a lot of my genealogy research points me to articles there. But in Colorado, we have an excellent newspaper archive. Same thing. You search keywords, and it goes all the way back to 1859 when the first newspaper opened up here. And it's great because I'm looking for swimming holes or, unfortunately drownings and swimming holes and stuff. Yeah, I mean, just to see where those swimming holes were. And
sure.
Circus came to town, to find out where that was at and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I can see if you're doing research on DeGrau and then that comes up, my ears would go right up,
Yeah.
And being a YouTuber, all of us here are kind of making YouTube videos. How does it behind the scenes? Give us a little behind the scenes thing. How many takes did it take to do that trailer, and how long did it actually take to make that trailer? Because I know what goes into it. I could imagine it took some time.
Well, I'm sure Eddie's portion was for one shot. I mean, he's all business.
Oh yeah, you know it.
Well, I can tell you this new series. It's 5 episodes. And the blooper reel is over 30 minutes long.
I believe it. I can understand.
Oh.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is that going to be
Because-
released at some
Please
point as
release
a
that
blooper?
sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to find out the right time
Okay.
to do it. We Eddie and I have not talked about this, but I feel like there needs to be some kind of after show after
I was
the
gonna ask you about
finale
that.
of the show, and
Well-
include the bloopers in that. And
Right. But we
We've got
did that
time.
after DeGrau, I think
We
that's
did.
fair to, expect something similar.
I
Yeah,
really
fun.
enjoyed that. That was one of the things I wanted to touch on was sitting down and kind of wrapping everything up and speaking off script and all those kind of different things, kind of giving a backstory of it, how long it took, the process. I loved the after show. And if you guys don't do another one, I tell you what, I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm letting you know right now.
Oh,
Ooh,
Yeah,
how about that?
You have to do that.
oh man, okay.
yeah, there's a lot of great behind the scenes stories
Yeah.
with this new series that I think people might be interested in hearing. So yes, that's definitely a good idea. I got to start writing all that stuff down though, so we don't forget.
Right.
Nice.
Well, you got any questions come into the chat yet? Tony's watching the chat. I'm watching the chat. If you got any questions for Brad and Eddie, go ahead and throw them in the comment section. If you're listening live and not in here in the live comment section, jump on over here. Throw your questions in here. We'd be happy to ask Brad and Eddie what you're interested in and what's on your mind. But Brad, go ahead. Start leading us through this. So you found this article and you started going down the rabbit hole. I'll do that all the time, right? First thing I'm looking for the circus. Next thing you know, I'm looking at articles about public opinion. Next thing you know, you go down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if folks have maybe have not seen DeGrau, I'll give a real quick synopsis on that. So we heard this, or Eddie already kind of knew this legend organically about this kind of mythical character DeGrau, who came to town, and maybe he had a silver mine, maybe who knows what the story really was. There's 4 or 5 different stories, and he was like I said, a very legendary mythical character. A lot of the characters in all of those stories I could not find on censuses. I could not find them in newspapers other than, the treasure story. So the very first thing I did with this story is Oliver Perry. I looked him up on censuses, in the newspaper, property records, and he's definitely a real dude. He was born in the late 1700s. He died 1820, just like that newspaper article said. And from that point on, I was like, all right, I was excited about DeGrau, but it was very mythical. This one was definitely real. Did he hide the treasure in his grave? That might be a myth part of it, but the guy was real, and all of the other characters that we came across in these newspapers were definitely real. So we thought that this was in the story. I mean, come on, what a story! This has to be the next series, right?
Yeah.
And just the craziness with, there was that first article. So for folks who maybe have not seen the first episode of Grave of Gold yet, so we found this first newspaper article, and it was this gentleman basically telling the story of how this guy was up in the mountains. And the newspaper that Eddie and I read in episode 1, we pare it down substantially. It's a very long article talking about this guy and how he had this tavern up in the mountains, and he was accused of being a killer. But then when he did eventually die, another gentleman purchased the tavern, and the tavern existed until the early 1900s. And this guy who wrote this article was a grandson of the guy who bought the tavern after Perry died. So he has firsthand knowledge of this. He's been there. The grave, Perry's grave was dug up by somebody, and he must have seen it firsthand to tell this story in the newspaper, right? And then so as I'm doing more research on this, I discover a year later, this guy's cousin, the author of the newspaper's cousin, writes to a different newspaper and is angry about it. He's like, that's not the story. Perry was a great man. He wouldn't kill anybody. And in fact, that's, disparaging on our grandfather for purchasing the land from a murderer. He wouldn't have done that. And so he tells a slightly different story about how this hobo was invited onto the land and built a cabin. And he, in fact, hid some money on the property. Still a treasure story, Now we
Sure.
have two different stories, right? Which one is true? Maybe there's a little bit true from each one, and we thought that this would be a great topic for a next series. But the big problem, two big problems. One is that it exists somewhere inside what's called the Bennington Triangle, which maybe Eddie can explain in a bit what the Bennington Triangle is. But problem number two was there. The first newspaper said it was in Reedsboro, Vermont. It's not. It's not in Reedsboro, Vermont. Article number two said it was somewhere on a turnpike between was like Troy and Brattleboro. I mean, who knows? We didn't know where it was, and there was so much conflicting information in the newspaper articles. We kind of had to. We had a lot of research on our hands, which is a few things we talk about in episode 1, how we narrow down where we're going to search for this. But like I said, problem number 1 was the Bennington Triangle.
Yeah.
Are you there, Eddie? Did you fall asleep?
I'm wide awake. Don't worry. I heard triangle and just.
He's already
He hears
looking
that in
around.
sleep, yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Bennington Triangle, Eddie.
Fabled area. It's accredited for paranormal activity. People have all sorts of ghost stories out of there. People have claimed to have seen UFOs, Bigfoot sightings. It's like a center of like supernatural kind of reports and mythos, I guess, in Vermont. It all started actually well into the 1920s and 40s with a series of disappearances that were very real. Actually, in the final one being a Bennington College student that disappeared, that all of these people were never found. And this Bennington College student, it was such a highly publicized thing involving the FBI and all sorts of agencies with no sign or trace of this young student. Actually led directly to the formation of Vermont State Police.
Oh, wow.
They identified like, wow, there's a big resource need here.
Yeah.
Ever since, the series of disappearances, it's just been like years and years of just all sorts of myths and legends going on in the area, from all sorts of things. It's also fabled to be the site of a Native American burial ground on top. There's been a lot of legends from natives about weird activity there, even, ranging from a man-eating stone that if you step on, you'll get swallowed and disappear out of a dimension. All sorts of stories, just endless stories. Mole people, you name it, pretty much everything there. So
I actually do have a personal story about the Bennington Triangle, because when I was in high school, in the Bennington Banner, the newspaper, it talked about how Bigfoot was spotted walking along Route 7 just north of Bennington, and it made all the newspapers in Vermont. And there's no photos or anything. It was just a story, unfortunately. But me and my high school buddies were like, we have to go camping there. Like we have to spend the night out there and see if we can spot Bigfoot. And even back then, I didn't care about metal detecting at all. I didn't even really care about history. But we started researching like Bigfoot in Vermont, and there was like some credible, maybe not so credible stories about like covered wagons being attacked by like giant hairy creatures. And some people may say that was Bigfoot, but there's actually another legend of something called the Bennington Monster, who is supposedly in the Bennington Triangle. Whether that's a Bigfoot type creature, whether that's something else, who knows? But some of the disappearances may have been attributed to that.
Isn't it great when you started
place.
uncovering these local legends? It just leads into another and another.
There's countless. There's even one of, there was a state mental health hospital that, shut down. All the patients escaped and they started a colony on the mountain. That's one of them. There's
right.
Crazy,
right?
In all reality, though, the inside what's commonly called the Bennington Triangle, it's the Glossenbury Wilderness. It's a wilderness land, federal land, and it is expansive, and there's nothing up there but trees and ravines, and there aren't even old homesteads on the top of the mountain. There's Eddie and I actually hiked up there because it's on the old long trail, the Appalachian Trail. We hiked up there because there were some cairns some mysterious stone stacks way at the top that nobody knows what they're all about, and they seem to be incredibly old. That might be some of that Native American burial ground.
Yeah, well,
background,
that's
but
what they're commonly, like assumed to be, but no one actually knows. It was so creepy when we were up there too. People are like taking stones out of them, making like campfire pits.
yeah,
It's like, talk about bad juju, man.
Right, what are you doing?
Yeah, don't touch those.
Didn't you see the Brady Bunch back in the day? You don't touch that stuff, man.
So yeah, so when we found these newspaper articles about Oliver Perry and his tavern, and kind of the different areas these different newspapers were claiming that the tavern was in, I kind of looked at Eddie and I was like, this is right in the middle of the Bennington Triangle. We have to kind of work this in as well. And there's numerous ghost towns in this general area. Was Perry's Tavern maybe part of one of these ghost towns? So we throughout the series, a little spoiler, we visit a few different ghost towns in the Bennington Triangle, searching for Oliver Perry's Tavern, because the big giveaway is going to be if his open grave is there, because in all of these reports, for some reason, it was never filled back in again. And by the way, I don't believe he was actually in the grave when it was dug up. It was kind of this place that he had reserved for himself. And then somebody had heard the story and snuck up there and dug it up.
Yeah,
but
that's
so yeah,
interesting though, because say he buries the treasure in the grave, but he never makes it in the grave. I mean, it's always gonna. Who should be digging up someone's grave anyways, right? So that treasure's gonna be there forever, right?
Exactly.
Allegedly, if it was
the
there.
Perfect hiding place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it conjures up this wonderful metaphor of not being able to take it with you, right? Like he's actually, trying to take it with him.
Yeah. Very cool. Ohio Relic Hunter Bill said, cairns are historically trail markers. That's what he had a comment about what you were talking about a minute ago.
Could be.
I know, you're describing this area very rugged, very remote, tree filled, and then you come across something that's man-made, like those these stacks of rocks, these cairns, and it's got to make you scratch your head and kind of look around. Have you ever, on a side note, experienced any kind of paranormal experiences while you guys have been out digging? Like
zero. No, I don't believe in any of that stuff.
No.
But the stories are great, and I love telling the stories.
And anytime you trace down a story and you start,
I
don't know what's coming up, but anytime you find any evidence or anything a clue or anything like that, like Tony and I have a local story here, and it kind of ties to the area where we've been digging, and there's this very kind of famous story, and the site was unknown. Well, Tony and I have found that site, and it's like when you realize you actually found this site to where this actually took place, and it's like this historical story. Boy, it gives you goosebumps, because you're like, we're standing right here where that happened, back in the 1850s. Like, wow. Yeah. And it gives you goosebumps, so
absolutely.
I can't wait to see what happens with this one.
When we were doing DeGrau, it was all about the stories of the treasure hunters who looked for it before us, because there were many. Right. And they all did it in kind of amazing ways. Like with somebody hired a psychic, and somebody had the dowsing rods, and they were gold panners. And we wanted to tell those stories in each episode as we searched for this treasure. And we were very lucky with this particular next series, where there's lots of really interesting real stories and all of these crazy old ghost towns in the Bennington Triangle. Some of them include very mysterious circumstances, and it was an amazing experience to be able to kind of discover all of those things. And in fact, I regret, spoiler again, I wasn't able to include this in the series. We didn't really find a place to put it, but I came across this in the newspapers.com as well. In the 1970s, there was a group called the Vermont Outing Club, or the Vermont Hiking Club, or something like that. And they actually also came across these newspaper articles that Eddie and I found. And this was documented in the Bennington Banner also. They went out looking for Perry's Tavern. Like I said, it was like 1978 or somewhere around there. And they couldn't find it. They failed. And they went and they thought they knew pretty much where it was, and they camped out overnight, and they gave up and they went back. So I don't know. Maybe Eddie and I find it. Maybe we don't. But we have a real adventure trying to find it. That's for certain.
Have you found more documentation on that from that club that kind of went out looking? Did they give you any clues? Like, did they leave behind
Document
exactly
anything?
where they
Yeah.
went? You know what I mean? Maps or anything like that?
They didn't. Well, they explained where they camped for the night, but it clearly wasn't the right place. I know where they camped, but I don't believe it. Perry's Tavern is in that area. It's pretty interesting how, what the kind of information that you can glean from these first few newspaper articles talking about it, how incorrect a lot of the information is, and why was it incorrect? Who knows? Did town lines shift? Were they just wrong? It's interesting.
You had mentioned like you come across these stories and things like that, Eddie. When Brad comes to you and says, "Hey, this is what I got going on," are you on board right away? You just trust this guy, or are you kind of thinking to yourself, he's a little loony, or what?
No, it doesn't take too much, I guess, for me to get on board and really excited reading into stuff. I mean, DeGrau was something I've been talking about for years. I mean, there's so many iterations of it, and I used to. It was some article I read years ago that I used to bug him about, like, we got to do one on Lost Money Cave. He's like, "What is Lost Money Cave? It's not real," and,
Right.
But we keep reading about it and move on. But yeah, this was another one where I getting really excited, hearing like, oh my gosh, this is, it's a really interesting story. It's, maybe a little scandalous, and it gets you really excited.
Yeah.
Eddie was so excited about the Bennington Triangle part of it. He was actually like, should we combine these two things, or should we like have a whole nother series about just the Bennington Triangle? I'm like, I don't know, man. I think they go hand in hand. I think we should combine these two things,
Yeah, you would think you could probably separate that, though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But exciting that you did combine it.
They play off each other, so you can.
They do.
Yeah,
that's great.
And back in the day during DeGraw, if I remember right, Brad, you and I were chatting about it. Didn't Hollywood come knocking around that time, like wanting to try to get involved? And I thought you and I talked, and you were saying, you know what, I'd rather just kind of control this and do this myself. I mean, everyone listening and everyone that knows your content knows you do a wonderful job in your filming, your editing. I know you hear that all the time, so I know you're very capable. And did I have that right? Didn't they back then come knocking?
Yeah, something along those lines. It hasn't happened actually in maybe a year, but there was a period of time a few years ago, maybe every 2 or 3 months, there would be some television show producer emailing me saying, "Hey, we're trying to put together a cast for a show. Would you like to sit down and interview for it?" Okay, sure. And I ended up saying no to all of them after a while, because just they never ended up getting made. I have some pretty wild stories about these questions these folks asked me, but I believe the one that you're talking about in particular was the Beyond Oak Island guys, who I sat down and talked to. And I actually had a very enlightening conversation with them about the show Oak Island itself, about how, I don't even know what season they're on now. Like, how do you make a treasure hunting series but never find the treasure, and then still have it be like satisfying at the end of a series?
What's the hook to keep people coming back?
It's a real study. Right. It's a real study.
And that was what we struggled with DeGrau, right? Spoiling DeGrau, it's been a few years now, right? As Eddie mentioned a couple minutes ago, like from the get-go, I was like, we're not going to find that treasure. Like, how are we going to make a show and then just not find it at the end, right? It's going to be like the last minute of the last episode and be like, well, we failed. It was fun, but so from the get-go, I was like, okay, we have to make this exciting by looking for the treasure, but also telling the stories. Every single episode needs to be like a new exciting location. We need to tell the stories about the people that looked for the treasure before us. And then at the end, we're going to debunk this legend of this mythical character, which we did. And then since we have just stolen this, it's a very well-known story in Vermont, right? We're going to steal that from the public of Vermont, right? We're stealing their Santa Claus, and then we're giving back a new one by hiding our own treasure.
Right.
It didn't really pan out the way exactly we wanted to, because good old Ben found it in about 4 days, but we did our best, and we felt like that was a pretty satisfying ending, right?
Yeah.
And so we were in the middle of that when the Beyond Oak Island guys called, and they're like, do you want to be a part of this project? And both Eddie and I, as younger folks, neither of us have cable. I don't think I've even seen one episode of Oak Island, let alone Beyond Oak Island. And so we looked it up on YouTube. And
we
for
got
some
together
reason,
to watch it. Yeah, see what this is about.
What is this show all about? So the first episode we watched was about Jesse James, right? And it was this super I apologize if this guy happens to ever listen to this, but he was like over the top. He found these like initials that somebody clearly just carved into the stone, and he's like, oh, these 3 letters, like BFJ, that was clearly a pen name for just a very unknown pen name for Jesse James. This is definitely a clue. And like Eddie and I are looking at ourselves, and we're like, this is not who we are. We're not going to be able to
pull that
bring
off,
this kind of excitement, enthusiasm over something that we don't even think is real, right?
But that was the thing too. I think it was the energy that like these people were bringing to. I guess I was worried about being painted in a light that maybe wasn't us.
Factual.
Right.
It wasn't a good representation of who you guys are.
You got to consider that.
Reality versus TV.
Yeah.
Correct.
We're goofy and like to have fun at times, but
Right.
I think we're pretty, serious about, our work and
sure.
Right.
treasure hunts.
They got the formula. They got that formula though, man.
I guess so. I mean,
it was fun to watch. We had a great time.
I know a few people personally who ended up being on that show who did say yes and were on the show, and it seemed like it worked out great for them. But they were interested in the DeGraw story, right? And that was, we had already kind of had an end goal in mind that didn't really make sense for whatever channel is it Discovery Channel that they're on, whatever channel they're on. Didn't really seem to make sense for that thing. And they were like, oh, well, what do you have on tap next? And we're like, well, I think we're gonna keep that close to our chest as well. And are we going to have the exposure that we would have had if we were on Beyond Oak Island? Not even close. But we have complete creative control. We can we can take as much time as we want. Like we can do things like write our own music. We can create our own storylines with the artwork, and like all of that art and stuff in episode 1 we put together ourselves, and it's just it's a project of passion.
Wow.
Totally get it. Yeah. And I know you said the ending of DeGraw didn't come off exactly like you wanted with Ben, but I'm telling you what, that was very impressive and a lot of fun. As a fan of your channel, that was a lot of fun to watch. And I think we had you guys on talking about that when he found it. Yeah, that was so much fun. He was so excited, and it seemed great to me. I know you probably had different ideas on how that would go, but
no, I mean, Ben was the perfect guy to find it, and the story of like flying across the country and getting stopped at TSA, and the TSA agent who actually stopped him knew who we were and recognized the treasure chest, and like all of those stories is incredible. But we had hoped that it would become more of like a
legend.
More of a legend. What's that dude who just recently died? His treasure that was found.
Forrest Fenn.
We thought maybe it would become something not quite. It wasn't millions of dollars, but something like that where people talked about it. But it ended before it began.
We are very happy. I wanted to be upset, but Ben was like the perfect guy. I mean, his story was amazing.
The story's great.
Yeah.
It
should have made it harder. Eddie and I were like, are we making this too hard? Is anybody ever going to find this?
Yeah. No. And I was a big searcher at Forrest Fenn. I searched for that thing forever and was really involved with that hunt. And you would think people would have deciphered that because he hit it in 2010. So you think, with people dying looking for it and all the stuff that went down with it, that somebody would figure it out before now. And I think it was just the sheer scope of anywhere from the Canadian border down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. You could decipher that poem a million different ways that he put out. But well, maybe you guys will create another treasure hunt at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens at the end of Grave of Gold.
Yeah. I want to interject real quick. Ken saying he was a searcher for the treasure. Ken, you have some pieces from that treasure chest, right?
No, I don't have them. I don't have them. Okay. I've held them. I've held them, but I don't have them. A good friend of mine here, a guy that he's one of my vendors in my personal life, in my business, and he's a big Fen searcher too. Him and I had that in common. We found that out about each other. Well, they auctioned off all the contents of that chest, Brad. Yeah. They ended up auctioning it all off.
Yeah, I heard that.
He bought two of the things. He bought a breastplate from the Colombian culture, the gold culture, the gold breastplate, and then one of the gold coins. And he was able to bring that over and let me hold it and check it out. It was always very visually obvious whenever they would show pictures of the stuff that was in the chest that he took before he buried it. It was very predominantly shown in this chest. So to get to hold that was really special. Amazing. For sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. I love treasure hunts and mysteries, and like I'm right there, because of my genealogy research. Like, boy, tell you what, you run down once you start searching your family, you start hearing all these fables and these legends, even within your own family. Like I got a person that changed his last name, and I started, my aunt, the oldest living aunt I have, she's like 98. She's still got a memory on her. And she told me all these stories about why he changed his name. She said a boxer came to town, 25 cents if you last around. He ended up killing the guy. So he went on the lam and changed his name. Once I start doing research, I find all these aunts that are also doing research, third cousins and stuff that I never knew. And they all had a completely different story, So you're talking about the cousin that wrote an article and doesn't want to be associated and all that stuff. Like that's what happens in families.
Yeah.
You have one story and then the next, and they don't always agree. Yeah. So first, we put links in the chat and also in the description, also to go over and check out the season 1, episode 1 of this new Grave of Gold series. And I'll ask you, those of you in the live chat, if you have any questions, make sure you throw it down in there. A lot of people are saying they've enjoyed that first episode already. How's the response been, Brad, to that first one now that it's launched?
Positive. I haven't really seen any negativity in the comments. As a YouTuber, you always hope that a video will get 1 million views, and it's not getting as many views as like my weekly metal detecting videos typically do, but it has more than my bi-weekly vlogs do. And I was guessing, like, if the people are watching me just like sit in my house and talking to a camera, they're probably going to watch the show. So I was counting on about that many views, and it's about double that. So I'm happy. And it's a real hard ask to get people who don't even know who we are at all to watch this thing that we've made, right? A couple dudes that nobody knows looking for some legendary treasure, right? It's a hard ask to get somebody to sit down and watch that for 20 minutes, but positive so far. We'll see, we'll see if all of those people who watched episode 1 make it to episode 5, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, I bet they will. That was because the trailer was a big hook. That first episode was great. Like, had me clamoring for more, can't wait for the episode 2 to come out. And I'm definitely going to be there to watch it for sure. Have you gotten any response from locals at all?
Oh,
from locals, a little
positive
bit,
or negative.
I've had some people message me on like Facebook and through the page, funnily enough, a lot of them have been like, oh, be careful that you, if you're going into Glastonbury, like, don't wear red. That's like one of the legends with the Bennington Triangle. Is like, if you wear red, like everybody who's disappeared has supposedly worn red. And I've actually had a guy message me and be like, "Oh, be careful," you know. And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." I mean, the show's already shot, but thank you in the future if we ever go back. But yeah, no, it's only been 6 days since episode 1 came out, and hasn't really made it around Bennington, I don't think. Maybe I should post it to some of their
there you
their
go.
Facebook pages and see what people have to say about it. But it's a pretty like the Bennington, the Perry legend I had never heard before. Apparently these people in the 70s heard about it, but they gave up pretty quickly. But the Bennington Triangle aspect of it is very, very popular. If you type it into like YouTube or just Google, there are like top 10, most haunted places in New England. It's always on there. There's like podcasts about it. They're like, millions of views, YouTube videos about it. It's a pretty well-known area with like a pretty well-known myth. What are the rules about the Bennington Triangle?
Sure.
Yeah. So you guys are up in Woodbridge and stuff. Does Woodbridge have a like a historical society or anything like that you've been able to try to tap or anything?
Yeah, we know the historical society very, very well. We work with them hand in hand, and in fact, Eddie and I are both members of it. We're the sole members of the historical society in Woodbridge. If you're in the area of Woodbridge, come to our little museum.
Yeah. That sounds like an invitation. Yeah. I'm gonna probably head there.
It's right off I-80, right on the interstate there at the at the Conoco gas station, right next to it.
Yep, we're just north of South Woodbridge.
Yeah, missed it. Just north.
Just
all the relics you find, you probably could open up your own little museum right there. Like that's every now and then we get a shot of your relic room, Brad, and it's always like, ooh, cool, So
yeah.
How about you, Eddie? Do you have a display that you put out?
I used to a lot when probably the first year getting into it. I'd lay out stuff, but over the years, your perception of what's super exciting and what do you want to display, like it changes a lot, and you get so much stuff. And I kind of fell out of it a little bit in the displaying. I did, however, though, improve on like documentation where I'm getting things, when I found it, and start doing that. But yeah, it's been less display worthy though. It's just kind of been like, in cases with note cards, document it and kind of just store it away. There's a couple cool things I have that are kind of out and about to see. And
I remember watching an Aqua Chigger video years ago, like when I first got into the hobby. And he had mentioned how he throws like his large cents and his colonial coppers like in a mason jar. And I remember thinking, what? Like, how is he not like putting those in cardboard squares? Yeah. Right. And I totally do that now. I have a mason jar full of coppers. So it's like there's only so many you could put in flip books, and it's like, it's like, oh, another large cent, throw it in the jar.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we were getting those tackle boxes from fans for a little bit. And we just buy, I feel like every trip we buy a new like tackle box. And some of them I just put a label on and be like, this place, this year, and this is the stuff. And then goes like in my garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ken, they're talking about just large cents. I mean, Colorado's like that too with us with Wheaties. Another Wheatie. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Another Wheatie.
A Colorado large cent. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what we call it. We're not digging large cents here, that's for sure. I would be like in a sleeve, in a Riker case. I'd be like, oh, large cent.
I found one, and it's in the case right over here.
There you go.
I have one.
There you go.
Well, I have I have 2 binders that I very meticulously put them in the cardboard squares and dated them and where I found them and put them all organized. And then I filled up 2 of those, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't look at these. Like, I gotta throw them in the jar.
Yeah, I know we're talking about Cave of Gold, but we gotta also talk about your metal detecting too. Like, do you have what do you think is your most special coin? I know you found gold. That was cool.
I did find gold.
Did you do pine tree? Did you do a pine tree shilling?
No, thanks for bringing it up.
Right in there.
Is that a sore subject? I'm sorry, man.
Everybody has a tree shilling.
Yeah,
me.
right. I got a picture of
Uh,
one.
no lie. Eddie and I went to a treasure show in, what was it? What was that town? I don't remember. It was in
Taunton.
Massachusetts, Taunton.
Taunton, Massachusetts. I remember.
And no lie, we had our little table with our stuff out, and we walked around. Literally everybody had a tree shilling, and one lady, again, apologize if this lady happens to be listening to this. She had two, and one of them she found on her first time ever metal detecting.
Oh,
And she's like, "Oh,
ouch.
do you have one?"
Yeah,
No, I do not.
Ouch.
Nope, sure don't.
No, why not? You don't go out often? Is that what it is?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just not trying
Ow.
hard enough.
Oh, you must be new.
You must be due. That's great.
My most favoritist coin. I don't know. It probably changes year to year. The gold coin is pretty amazing, but just this last month. Well, let me start over. This last year, I found my first ever New Jersey state copper, and then throughout the year, I actually found two more, which is bizarre because I had never found one ever. But just this last month or so, like 3 weeks ago, these guys, Tom and Phil, who invited me 3 or 4 times last year to their permissions in upstate Vermont, they invited me again. Videos coming out after Grave of Gold is done. But these guys, like, they're like the best friends to have because they'll go metal detecting all year, and then they'll find like a primo location, and they'll be like, "We got to get Brad up here," and they call me and they invite me. And so they invited me up to this place, and I found a copper I didn't recognize. I had to do a whole bunch of Googling. I actually scraped it with my shovel, which I'm pretty upset about. But it's my very first New York copper. So that one's the the one I'm most excited about right now. And it's funny because we were like Googling the words on it. It says Eborak on the side. Like,
Eborak.
What is it? Eborak. So we like Google it, and the first result was like, you know how when you Google something, like the top is like eBay listings. It was like $28,000, and I was like, oh my god, I destroyed this coin with my shovel. $28,000, but it was, you know, some wacko trying to sell their $100 coin for that much money. But but no, it was an exciting moment because anytime I find something that I don't know what it is,
yes,
and I get to do some research on it, I'm excited about it.
Those are the best.
Those are the best. Those are my favorite finds.
Eddie, what
some
about
questions? You? Yeah, favorite coin, Eddie.
You know, I mean, starting out, it was silver and gold for sure, but going out in some backwoods places, finding some places that, you know, with local lore. I mean, with the videos, we're all about the storytelling, you know, right? We're finding, like, you know, a cannonball and the artillery buttons, things like that. We were finding, we found some coins. I think they were like, it was a bunch of British, like, half cents or something we were finding in one spot.
Yeah.
And then later, some buttons. And I've never been super excited over buttons, but after the video came out, some viewers reached out and they're like, "Whoa, I'll buy that button from you." And I'm like, "Really? What do you want this thing for?" And we get looking it up, and it was like a British loyalist militia button. Like, and it was it was a group that was like direct adversaries for the Green Mountain Boys. So all of a sudden, everything from this location seemed really special, really like local, really, you know, significant to me. So that was kind of the stuff that got shifted to the display cases. I just found it more interesting being locally, like, so, you know, relevant to what's happening.
Like, regardless of whatever the coin was, the pocket that it was in makes that particular coin far more interesting and exciting.
It's the story behind it. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things Ken and I always look at is, like, you know, so you find something, how did it get to that point? What's the story behind it? Who had it? Why is it out there? You know, it's not native to that area. And then what's the whole story of how it got there? That makes those relics higher on the list. Well past the intrinsic value of them.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, just, you know, it's just fun even picturing. I mean, we talked about on the trail out of there when you're still super hyped, finding, like, you know, well, what could it, you know, like, we're making up all these theories, trying to fill in the blanks, right? You know, like, was this like loyalists camping out here? Was there a battle? Is this a trophy? The Green Mountain Boys had a uniform hanging, and, you know, Yeah,
That's a good
it
one.
became, that was the, exciting ones over time that, I didn't realize then I've come to really appreciate. But yeah, I mean, those are probably my favorite, just the local lore stuff.
That's awesome.
Right.
Relics are great, though. We've had a lot of questions come in, haven't we, Tony?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Me neither.
Let's see. Mr. Bill Hayes, have either of you found a GW button? That comes to be a
No.
hot topic right now. GW buttons. No.
Negative.
No, but I do know, people might know a YouTuber named Mud Dog Mandy. He
Yeah.
is
yeah.
he's not too far away from Woodbridge. In fact, he has like 12 of them, and he's found in his town. And we're like
I was
30
going to
minute
say,
drive from him.
are
So,
you in an area that others have been found? Is it something that just
Yeah.
has eluded you?
yeah, no, this last spring, my boy is in 4-H, and for a 4-H project, we all went to this farm in a adjacent town. And me, hey farmer, like, hey, would you mind? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Alright.
go for it. And this is actually a really kind of funny story. Well, I'll keep it short. But I went out metal detecting. First time ever. The woman who owns the farm, and they're a young couple. They're probably younger than me, and they bought like 2,000 acre farm a few years ago. And they're just like, they got a bunch of cows and chickens, and they're just going for it, right? Being a Vermont farmer. And she was like, oh yeah, there's like this older gentleman who has metal detected this land for like years before we bought it. And he kind of likes this field over here. I was like, oh, really? Has he ever found anything over there? And she's like, oh, well, he found like some like little bell, like little sheep bells. I was like, oh yeah, like crotal bells. She's like, oh yeah, I think that he's found some of those. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, sure. I'll start over that field, and I'll kind of wander around. And I took one loop around this field, and I found a colonial copper. And then I found like 3 steps away another colonial copper, and then like 3 more steps another colonial copper. And there was like brick in the ground. And I was like, either this guy isn't telling her that there's like a home site in the middle of her field, or like I just discovered something, right? And so I ended up having like 6 or 7 coppers in my pocket. And this older gentleman kind of like walks out of the barns, and I'm thinking, oh, this is like, father or father-in-law or somebody. He's like, hey, did you find anything? And I was like, oh yeah, actually I did, like check out everything I just found in your farm field. And he's like, oh yeah, the guy who metal detects is going to love hearing about this. I'm actually the neighbor from across the street. I saw you out here metal detecting. I thought I'd come over and talk to you. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
We'll let the town in on it.
Yeah, the town rumor mill is going to be talking about, and it didn't take 30 minutes. The guy who metal detected in the past came over. He actually already knew who I was, and we had a great conversation. And he was telling me that he had never found anything in that field that I was standing in, and found 7 coppers in. But right across the road, apparently there was an old, very popular tavern. Was it Oliver Perry's Tavern? No, it wasn't. But he had said that they had found like 3 or 4 GW buttons right across the road a couple years ago. So
2 pine tree shillings. And 2 pine tree shillings. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. Right. So I had gone back to that very particular field and like got it real close to the road. I didn't find any GW buttons, but I did find, I think I might have found like a dozen coppers there, including like a Nova Constellatio. I don't think I found any large sets. I think it was all British, all with the Irish ones there, Hibernias, a couple counterfeits, counterfeit George coins. I found a Revolutionary War. It was actually a French 13th Regiment button. And I had, from the get-go, like with all of my permissions, I always offer everything to landowners. And these particular farmers, they just like, they took like a fragment of a shoe buckle, and they took one of the George coins that had a nice date on it. And they didn't want anything else. Nice. And I had that 13th Regiment button, and she was like, oh, 13, my favorite number. And I was like, oh no. But she was very cool about, I was like very excited about bringing this home and putting it in my display case, and so she was cool with that. But yeah, so that was a long story to say that no, I've never found a GW button, but I've come very close, apparently.
Yeah. How about a Fugio? Fugio scent.
Yeah, I think I have
Fugio.
3 or 4 Fugios. They don't never the ones that I have found don't look very nice. They all
No,
come out of the
right.
ground very deteriorated.
Sure.
I think 2 of them I found with Eddie actually. One of them was halved. It was cut right in half.
Wow.
Wow.
Had some
I
other
actually-
questions coming to me.
I
Go ahead,
actually
Tony.
had one of my viewers send me a Fugio.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
slabbed and
generous.
everything. Just, hey,
Holy smokes.
same guy sent me like 7 trimes, the Fugio, a whole bunch of.
Wow.
I messaged him. He actually lives in Vermont as well, and I messaged him. I said, "You coming on tonight?" "Oh, I'll try and make it." I'm like, "Yeah, you're not coming on, you turd." But yeah, I love those Fugios. Those are great.
Yeah.
Let's see.
David Full Metal Digger. I'll take this one. David Full
Yeah.
Metal Digger.
This one's good.
He said, Brad found the coolest silver ID tag ever. And did he find a living descendant to give it to? We're talking about Anna's pendant.
Yeah.
You've told that story before, but new listenership here on Relics Radio and stuff. Why don't you talk a little bit about Anna's pendant?
Yeah, so I was detecting a place that was very it didn't really have any great backstory. It was very an unremarkable place. I found like a couple old coppers that were barely ID'd as colonial coppers. I found like horseshoes and just kind of random stuff, barrel tap. And I stumbled upon this. One of the greatest things I've ever found is this solid silver. It looks like it was even possibly made out of like a spoon bowl, flattened and engraved with this really kind of peculiar, crudely engraved image of like a character sitting on a bench, like holding a bird on a string. And it looks like a large baby of some kind. And I saw that and I was like, what is this thing? And I flipped it over and it was engraved with a name, Anna Leonard. And then the date, it was like May 5th or 6th. I can't remember the date, 1790 something. Holy cow, what is this, right? It was like immediately, who is this person and why is this right here where it is in the middle of absolutely nowhere in the mountains? And I posted the video for it. I had done like some of the genealogy on my own, like, oh, okay, so like this person lived not too far away down in Conway, Massachusetts. Pretty interesting story. Not really sure why it ended up here, but I kind of like left it there. And then I published the video and people were so interested in who this person was and how it wound up where it was that I ended up doing the deep dive of my speculations of how it ended up where it was, her family history from England, the generations, like all of her family members were important in some way in their own regard, and where she ended up. And she ended up out in Michigan with like a huge family. And so the question was, did this end up going to a living descendant? Well, the problem is when you're talking about great grandparents, right, there's like, was there like 128
right, as the tree
grandparents
comes down.
that goes down, as it comes down,
it goes crazy. Yeah.
It's exponential, right? And I had this idea of like, wouldn't it be great if I gave it to like her daughter's daughter, eldest daughter's daughter, but then it always breaks, like they don't have a daughter. I'm like, oh well, then it would have to go to like the brother's daughter, and they're like, that's not as nice and clean anymore. Like, what if I gave it to like all of the sons, oldest sons, right? And that always gets broken, and it just wasn't like a clean path. And I was like, well, maybe somebody like reach out to me and be like, hey, that's my great grandmother. And nobody ever did, or they did, and it was like not real. And I ended up getting in contact with, well, they contacted me, the Conway, Massachusetts Historical Society. And we set up a date for me to actually go there, put the pendant on display, and like do a talk about Anna and the life and everything. And then COVID happened and it got canceled. And they're like, let's schedule it 6 months. Okay. And then 6 months happens and COVID was still happening and it still got canceled. And that happened like 4 times. And it was almost 2 years later. And it was like, it wasn't fresh in my mind anymore. and I would have to like go back and do all the research again, and it ended up just not happening. So I still have the pendant, and I have it in the front of my display case. First thing I see next to my gold coin and my gold nugget. And the more I think about it, this may be very, I don't know. This might not be the right thing to do, but I feel like I'm the right person to have it in this moment in time, since I know all of the story. Like I went through all the work of figuring out who it belonged to and where she ended up, and I feel like I would appreciate it more than some
Sure.
great grandchild who doesn't even know she existed, right? If I just approach them and be like, this belonged to one of your ancestors in the 1700s, cool, thank you. Like what are the odds this person is going to hold it in some high regard and put it in a wonderful place in their home?
Right.
Not
Right.
great, I would guess, right? It'd get thrown in the junk drawer with the,
Right.
the pens and the
Right.
tape. So I haven't. What's going to happen when I die? It'll probably go to a museum or a historical society. But for now, I'm going to hang on to it and enjoy it.
Yeah, you're the custodian of that, and you know that story. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's the right choice, especially if you couldn't find that nice clean delineation. We've got
Right.
Adam Zajax in our chat, and I guess I better plug my computer in here. We're gonna lose it. Tony, go ahead and go on the next question. I'll finish my story later.
Okay. Yeah. More questions coming in. Brendan Knutson. Brendan, thanks for coming on and joining us tonight. We'll start with Eddie. Like, I mean, you've killed it on finds. I mean, the things that are insane are the things that you find. But what is your white whale? What's eluded you that you have top of the list?
Top of the list. Well, I'd say probably for me, still something really Vermont based. So, well, I mean, tree shilling would be pretty cool too. I mean, bragging. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say you can rub that in a little bit. That even has even higher value.
It might have to have higher value, but I mean, like, yeah, I'd say just some very unique Vermont relics. I'd be happy with something very like pertinent,
Something
like
with
more
a good
militia
story.
buttons. Yeah, more story stuff. I mean, yeah, I'd take some like Vermont coppers and stuff. I don't think I actually have a Vermont copper even, so like some of those. That'd be great. I just like the local stuff.
Yeah.
The top of my list is all very bizarre things. I think a tree shilling would be wonderful, but it would just sit on the shelf, right? I would love to find a moose antler shed.
Oh,
okay, I second that. Me too. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, this last year I found a moose skull, but it was a doe, unfortunately. So no antlers attached. I would love to find. I've actually had this is a recurring dream of mine. I would love to find a slab of stone in the woods, and then you move this slab of stone aside, and there's stairs that go down underground, and in this room it's still set up like it was from the 1700s, right? There's like a table with a chair, and there's like a pen on the table, and there's like a cot, for all still set up like a time capsule from that time. That would be choice.
You are a storyteller, my friend.
yeah. Wow.
Why couldn't that exist?
Yeah,
It has to exist.
It's out there somewhere. And I'm so shocked you haven't found a moose shed yet.
Yeah.
I would have thought with all your trekking out there that you would have come across something like that.
Have you come across a live moose?
Oh yeah. Yep. Plenty. I have a great story too with that. My wife and I walked into this appliance store in Woodbridge, and in this appliance store, this guy had more antlers on the wall than I had ever seen in my life. I'm like, this is like a great white hunter guy, right? He's going west and hunting moose and whitetail every day. And so I strike up a conversation with him. I'm like, hey, where are all these coming from? He's like, oh, they're all sheds. We find these on the ground. I'm like, what? How are you finding hundreds of antler sheds, moose sheds. I'm always on the lookout for a moose shed. And he's like, I have a dog I trained to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And we just go out in the woods and my dog runs off
Yep.
and comes back with an antler in his mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what? Like, I'm not a dog person. I'm a cat person, but I'm thinking about maybe getting a dog now so I can find myself a moose antler.
A
They
moose
do that in
shed
Colorado.
dog.
Yeah.
Do they?
Shed hunting. Yeah, absolutely.
Shed in it. Huh.
Yep. And train the dogs, and you're just pretty much going out for a hike, and the dogs
Yeah.
are just bringing them back to you. It's crazy.
Tony loves moose. He's got intimate
Uh,
connections with them.
Yeah, I just wrote in the chat that I'm starting to get the shakes again.
He had a bad experience with a moose one time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This past year, back in I don't even, it was July, I think. We're out metal detecting, where actually I found my gold coin app. But yeah, we were heading back to the cars and stuff, and saw a moose probably 100 yards away, and she had literally just dropped her newborn out, and she was not happy that we were in that area, and she chased us around and tried to stomp us, and we were pretty lucky to get away with no deaths, no scrapes, no cuts.
Yeah, that's wild. They're dangerous.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the
So
reason
every
why I
time we
was
talk
asking if you
about
had
moose,
any.
we
Yeah.
got to give him a bad time, right? Like you got to just kind of poke him. It was terrifying, I know, and I'm very glad that no one got hurt. But once you're safe, now we can poke fun at him a little bit.
Yeah,
here and
yeah.
there. What else came in? We had. I was telling you a real quick story when my battery almost died on me over here. Adam Zajax in the chat, and he had found a World War I dog tag, and he had sent that to me because I really enjoy doing the research, using genealogy research. I remember I even tried for Anna for you there, Brad, and by the time I had information, you had already had all that same information. But we were actually able to find an existing grandson of this World War I soldier that went over to France. And we returned it to the grandson. He returned it. Adam was able to return it to the grandson. And the guy messaged me and he's like, you know what, Ken, me and all my brothers are military and we have nothing of our grandfather,
Wow.
And so that's that direct connection you were talking about. And they just appreciated that so much and I started getting messages from like nieces and family of this guy that Adam returned the tag to, and they're like, you have no idea what kind of conversations this has stirred up in our family, and it's this big buzz, and you just hope for that, right? Like that's the kind of stuff you hope for.
That reaction.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I was afraid that was not what would happen if I reached out to somebody from their relative that was from the 1790s.
Right.
I don't think that there would be
Different era.
They wouldn't even know that person existed.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. You have to find that one sage of the family. You know what I mean? That was just like
right. That does genealogy.
That does genealogy. Yeah. Adam had a question, didn't he, Tony?
Yeah, Adam wants to know. We're going all the way back to the beginning, basic question, but people want to know, when you guys first started detecting, like what got you into detecting? Was it the history that came first, or did the history evolve after you started detecting? What kind of got you into that searching part of it? Eddie, what got you into it?
Well, we were watching YouTube videos, of course, and we were actually really into gold panning, and we started going out gold panning together and having fun around here, and sharing videos with each other, getting more into it. At one point, we built a sluice box and everything, and
which, by the way, totally legal to use in Vermont. We didn't know that at the time. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yes, thank you.
Statute of limitations is already over. You guys are clear
Quick
on
message
that.
from the legal department.
Caveat. Yeah. PSA. Quick PSA.
State police are knocking on your door right now.
It's well out of the statute of limitations anyway. But
yes,
anyway.
It didn't work. We didn't find any gold with it. So
yeah.
Push the gold right out. It was really good.
We bought like this doormat from Abishan Hardware, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it was a joke. It was probably a disservice to even call it a real, sluice box.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the excitement of finding a couple of flakes was great, and naturally the content on YouTube started directing us to metal detecting, and it seemed to us it was way more of an instant gratification kind of like, ooh, and then seeing the stuff coming out. We got so hyped, and we bought our first, starter detectors. I had like a White's Coin Master. Brad had like a Fisher F2. or no, I think didn't you have a bounty hunter at one point, like a Walmart one, or there
Yeah.
was a couple ones we were playing with in between, but yeah, and then we just started with that and just kept finding stuff. It stayed fun and stuck with it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we were not. I wasn't at least interested in the history whatsoever when we first started. I found a mercury dime in my pocket change from Dunkin' Donuts, and I was
It's in the
like,
coin flip.
whoa. I was like, whoa, what is this all about? A silver coin? Like, it felt different. It sounded different. It was old. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And then we were doing the gold panning at the time. Like, just finding a silver coin was way more value than any of the gold we'd ever found. And so I actually started with coin roll hunting. I went to the bank, and I must have bought $1,000 of quarters and dimes. I did not find one silver coin.
Oh no!
And
Good return.
And yeah, and then so Eddie and I we started the metal detecting thing, and I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. I always tell this story about how I brought one of my friends. We were both big trout fishermen, which is actually how we started gold panning, because right after Irene, we found somebody's gold panning supplies like shoved up under some roots. We're like, what the heck? Like, people gold panning here? We had never heard of this before. So anyway, the long about story here is that I brought one of my buddies trout fishing, and we both caught a limit of trout in like 30 minutes. And he's like, this is easy. And I was like, it's not usually like this. But that happened to Eddie and I metal detecting. One of the very first like permissions we ever got, outside of our family members. I had a friend who was renting a house that was part of this mansion complex. It used to be a mansion, it's not anymore, in North Adams, Massachusetts. And within a span of maybe an hour, I had $2 silver. I had this giant silver Russian ruble, which is bigger than a silver dollar.
Wow.
We were finding Indian head pennies and rings, and like, it was wild. And that was kind of the moment where that was like the first real kind of permission hunt we went on. And we're like, this is easy. This is amazing. Like, I can't ever see not doing this, right?
Right.
We have to start bringing a camera with us because this is so wild. Nobody's going to believe this. Of course, it was never that good ever again, but it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. But that we actually went back, and the lady was like in her 90s, and she had a touch of dementia, and like she didn't remember us. And so she had given us permission to just go back whenever, and we went back whenever, and she like kicked us off the land. We're like, wait, no, remember?
Yeah.
So we could never go back there again, unfortunately, but we dream about that place.
Good place.
Wow.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I wanted to ask you about your Eddie, do you ever film too, or you just kind of you go along with it? Like, do you take gear and kind of go off? Do you guys split up and kind of go different directions?
It depends. We've split up cameras and gone off different ways and done things. But I think for the most part, we're usually just together and, in the same general area doing things together as a team, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Eddie has never really had like a huge interest in the holding the camera aspect of it. I think that was always like, I adopted that as a hobby. When I get emails all the time about people asking about how to start their YouTube channel and like what equipment to buy and like any tips and tricks. And I always say, like, metal detecting is a hobby, right? There's the gear part of it. There's the community part of it. There's all of the things that you have to know about metal detecting, but making videos can be as simple as just using your cell phone, but it can also be like a hobby in and of itself with the gear and the community and all of the tips and tricks that go along with that. And I really fell in love with the filmmaking part of it as much as I did the metal detecting of it. And I think that for Eddie, that he didn't really, maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but I was always the one like buying all the camera gear and buying all the tripod and carrying it all and doing, that was always kind of like the thing I loved doing. Yeah. He even offered to edit a few times, and I was like, no, I want to do it.
I had a GoPro at one point I was bringing, but I think it just created issues. Remember, it was like they were shooting in like different definitions and
different aspects. Yeah.
yeah. And it's just
makes it tough.
It
does.
did work, at the time.
Well, I'm impressed by your setup, Brad. I've checked it out, and how's that M50 treating you, man? You beat that thing. It's taking a beating. That's what I'm on right here. That's what's shooting me right now, and it's like, man, I'm always worried I'm going to break this thing. But then I watch your videos, and you got it like banging around and getting it all set up as you're going down. I know you got a couple cameras that you use for different shots, but how's that thing working out for you? And has it taken a real bad beating?
Well, I mean, you're saying that as though it was a singular M50. I think I'm on my fourth one.
Oh,
and
there you go.
yeah. So one of them fell in the drink when we were filming DeGrau, so I had to toss that one. The second one, because I use an external microphone, and the place where the audio jack plugs in, it started like breaking up when it wiggled. So I was like, I have an electronics background. I'll just take this thing apart and solder together that little broken connection. I totally destroyed it. Couldn't get it back together. Number 2 is in the gutter. I am on number 3, and then I have number 4 right here because we wanted 2 cameras for this new series so that we could film it kind of more conversationally. And as these break, I'm always like, should I get something like more like big boy camera, like, because these are what, like $600-700, somewhere around there. I mean, like, should I go for the $2,000 camera? But then I think about, like you said, I'm carrying this on like my belt, metal detecting, covered with dirt, covered with mud. We get a rain shower, I've got a like plastic bag I wrap around it. I think I'll stick with what I got. It seems to be working out all right. But yeah, so now I have the M50 for the face shots and the B-roll, and then I have a little I don't know where it is, a little Olympus that is waterproof, shockproof, that I have pointing at the ground. And now I have a GoPro because there's a little YouTube background here. People always say, don't let those negative comments bother you. But you know what? They bother me.
They talk about the audio.
No. They say fake, like, we never see you dig it up. Like, you're just planting that stuff. And it's like, I do the research. I hike miles. I spend all day trying to find like 8 or 9 things to make a video. And then I have to edit this whole thing down and post it on YouTube. And then like the first comment, fake. It's like,
I don't have that kind of time to do this, to fake this.
Right.
Seriously.
Crazy.
Wouldn't that be easy, right? To just buy something on eBay and then make this video that I'm spending days creating and just create it in 30 minutes. So anyway, that's my long story for why I bought a GoPro, so that I can film every single target from start to finish, hear the target, dig it up, but people still say it's fake. So it's like, I can't win. I just
there's those people are out there. I mean, anything that they feel that they can't, that they're never going to find or any kind of thing like that. It's the jealousy. It's the, all those kind of different things. And my response to, cause I've had that same thing with my gold coin is, listen, if you, first off, I've never seen you in any of my videos commenting. If you were here watching me for years that I've been doing this, you would know who I am as a person, and there's no way you would ever consider that I would be faking this find. I mean, just thank you for the comment. I appreciate you watching the video and be on your way. That's about the best you can do.
The easy answer to that is to say, well, just don't let it bother you. But
Yeah, there's actually like a Facebook group out there where they try to pull out fakers and people like that and really call it out.
To that.
Yeah,
and I'm always waiting. I'm always waiting for one of mine to pop up there so that I can send the unedited clip.
Yeah, I got in trouble on that, and really quite heavy. It was like a firestorm of people coming after. You know how I feature other channels, right? On my weekly dirt show. I feature all these other channels and show what everyone else is finding. And I guess I showed a guy a clip from a guy that found this collection of coins, and everyone on that site was saying it was fake. And then everyone was like, DK is showing this fake stuff and this planted stuff. And I'm like, look, man, I'm just showing some cool things I'm seeing out there on video. I'm not,
Yeah.
Justifying stuff or this and that. And luckily I had some people kind of come to my defense and stuff, but they were really starting to get the posse together to come out and lynch me. Yeah, they were hot and heavy with it, but I mean, it's terrible. People that do that give the whole thing a bad name, but
yeah.
I mean, I think one of the biggest issues with it is like the most popular shorts on YouTube are all fake, like very clearly.
Right? Yeah, Arcalog, X-Files, all those guys.
Yeah. So like, I think that they're just, I don't know. I mean, all good for them. Like, what a niche to find. Like, very clearly faking things, metal detecting,
wildly popular.
Raking it in, right?
Wildly. They've started numerous. They have like Arcalog Classic, Arcalog #1, Arcalog number. I mean, those guys are just crushing it, and it's it's so ridiculous. But they found an audience for it, man.
Sure did.
That's what it's about, finding an audience for it. So, hey, where did this? For both of you, real quick. I know we got about probably 10 minutes left. This whole interest in story legends. Were you both big readers when growing up, and were you always attracted to like pirate stories? Is it something your parents really instilled in you, or is this something kind of new since you've been metal detecting, gold prospecting? It kind of led into this to get back to the cave of gold.
Grave of gold.
Oh, what did I say? Cave? Oh, did I give something away? Is it actually a cave? No, grave of gold. Grave of gold. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like for me, I'll let Eddie answer as well, but I feel like for me, it all kind of came about when I would go metal detecting. It's kind of how do I say this? If I go metal detecting and I don't find anything amazing, which you can't find something amazing every single time out. It's just not reasonable to expect that, right? I have to kind of come up with a way to make a video entertaining by finding things like horseshoes and buttons and whatever, uninteresting things. So the conclusion I came to is, well, we have to think about the people. We talked about this earlier, right? We have to think about the people that this stuff belonged to. Those people are undoubtedly interesting, even though the things that they've left behind may, in and of themselves, are not interesting. So that's when I kind of started pivoting my videos towards the stories that these things can tell more so than the things themselves. Finding a coin is great because I don't have to do all that extra work of talking about why this coin is interesting, right? It's an interesting thing because it's money, right? But when you find, a horseshoe, like how could a horseshoe possibly be interesting? Well, this guy, he was a farrier and he had a team of horses and he did this thing, he did this thing. So with the new series, Grave of Gold, like it would be a very short series if we told a story and then episode 1 arrived at the tavern and then episode 1, can't find it, end of series, right? We have to kind of tell the stories of everybody involved and the myth of the area itself, the Bennington Triangle. I feel like that, and I think Eddie and I are both kind of like cinephiles also, like love TV shows, love movies, love, we talk about movies. We have a game that we've played talking about actors and the movies they're in and stuff, like a trivia game, just for fun to play amongst ourselves on long car rides, right? So we've always loved those types of things. And I think that it's just fun. It's for me, it's more fun to tell a story and make a thing, like a piece of, it's very pretentious to call it a piece of art, but to create it more so than just have your cell phone and be like, look what I found, it makes it more fun and more fulfilling for me, at least.
Yeah, because I think you're right. Like every aspect of the story can be a story within itself. You know what I mean? And with this series, I can I don't know what's coming up, but I think that I can see that happening. I know it kind of did with the Gra. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. Like,
Hey, thanks.
you can't tell us like the ending or anything like that. Like, I don't. What are we?
Oh, we can.
What are we getting into? So now you gotta you.
Yeah.
I think there's another episode coming up, right? When's is there episode 2?
Episode 2,
Bet.
Friday night, 7
Friday
p.m. Eastern time.
7
Yeah.
Eastern.
Premiere.
I already have my alarms already set on my phone, to be honest with you.
Excellent.
I'm not kidding. I'm gonna not miss it.
Are you actually releasing it as a premiere?
Yes, all 5 will be premieres.
Oh, okay.
Good.
So you can go and watch it and hang out and chat back and forth with.
Episode
Brad.
1. I was actually in Pennsylvania on a metal detecting trip, so I wasn't able to be in the chat, but I was watching it on my phone, seeing what the reaction was in the comments and stuff. And if anybody hasn't seen that episode, I was really waiting for like the last 3 or 4 minutes to see what the reaction was in the chat, and it was positive. I think it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's cool. So check it out. We posted a link down in the comment section. We also posted a link down below in the podcast description. It'll take you right over there to Brad's YouTube channel, and you can set that like Tony did, set that reminder, right? There's just a button there, right, Tony, that you click on to set a reminder to notify you when that's going live.
Yep.
And join us all over there. We'll all be there, one big happy family, and they're watching it together. That's kind of cool. It's like the old drive-in movie theaters. We're all hanging out. Somebody's bringing popcorn, something. We're gonna watch it. It's gonna be fun,
and
man.
I will say too that I've received a bunch of feedback from viewers, and it's been mostly positive, but I have received quite a few feedback from fellow creators, specifically Jason Quarter Hoarder there texted me a few nights ago, and he's like, Brad, I just watched episode 1, and he had a list of wonderful things to say. Now, he's a great guy anyways. He would probably say that if it was terrible, but it's great to hear from other creators being like, this is cool, which feels great.
I'm a big fan, and I study not only other creators, but TV shows and even movies for editing, style and seeing how people put the edit together. And that's what I'm really impressed with. When I watched episode 1, I was like, cool. Oh, look how he did that. Like that led to the building the excitement up. I mean, because the edit can make or break certain scenes and certain way you're affecting the viewer, so hats off to you for the editing for sure. I know that I'm always studying, I'm always looking stuff, trying to create my own, improve my own creation. And I saw this quote today on a video I was watching. It said that viewers, when they come on to watch any of your content, they're coming in with zero context, and they're actively looking for the first reason to stop watching. That's what they're doing. Coming on with zero contact, looking for that first reason to drop off, right? And so you need to make sure that you cater to both those problems as a creator. I think you do a great job with that. Like you start watching, you immediately get hooked, you kind of right into the context, and then you it's hard for people to find that jump off point where they're like, oh, okay. And that's all comes down to great editing, great creation. So hats off to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, we decided a lot of people gave us feedback for DeGrau, and they said that they stopped watching the show because they knew we weren't going to find it, right? So for this season, the first 30 seconds of the very beginning of the show, we show a clip of a later on episode of where we actually do find something exciting. And that's, I've never done that in one of my metal detecting videos. I know a lot of people like to add like the best part of the video and like the first part of the show, and then you have to wait to see that again. So I took a little inspiration from other metal detecting YouTube channels for that bit, so that people will hopefully stick around to the end.
Excellent. Well, hey, we're about out of time here. Tony, any other questions in the chat real quick before we
I didn't catch anything. No.
Yeah, I think we went through them all.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Great. Yeah. Well, hey guys, thanks. Appreciate your time. We always ask our guests to hang out till after we kind of end the show. We'll say our goodbyes off the air if you're okay with that. Just a couple of minutes, and then we'll give you last word, kind of promo the show, tell people how they can find it, and then we'll let you guys get out of here, and we'll end the show.
Sure. This thing that Eddie and I have created over the last year and a half is, I think it surpasses DeGrau. Let Eddie speak for himself, but I think it surpasses DeGrau for how proud of it I am. I cannot wait for all 5 episodes to be released and hear what everybody has to think about it. Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, premiere.
Excellent. Eddie?
I can't disagree with that. You know, I love DeGrau, and I had a blast filming it. I love the end product we got. This was too much fun. This has been something totally new and just next level to me. So I always hate to be like, this is the best of the best, you know, every new thing. This is the best of the best. I love it. It's good. I hope everyone else enjoys.
Yeah, wait till next time. It's even going to be better.
Yeah.
It's the best of the best. Like I said, you can find links to Brad's channel down below, where you can go there every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern and catch a new release of a new episode of The Grave of Gold. I almost called it Cave of Gold, but I didn't do that. You can go over there and check it out.
That might be a better name. It's not too late to change it.
Yeah, you got me thinking it's like The Rock, open it up, you get down in this cave, it's like this furniture in there. You got me. Now I'm fantasizing about that, right? But yeah, go on and check it out. Links down below. Links also in the chat. We really appreciate you guys giving us your time. Absolutely, man. We know you guys are busy, but we also know you're excited about this series, and anything we could do to help you out would be our pleasure for sure.
Yeah, thanks for the outlet. I appreciate it.
Sure. Tony, what do you got?
Eddie, Brad, always a great time speaking with you guys. And I tell you, you knocked it out of the park with the first episode. I'm hooked. Like I said, I've got the my alerts on. I'm not going to miss any episode now going forward. And just speaking with you, I admire all of the things that you guys go out and do. And you put out great content because you guys put in the work. And that's something to very admirable for you guys to do. And I appreciate that. And I'm very envy of you guys over in Woodbridge, because if we had stuff in Colorado like that, I tell you, it's just absolutely amazing. So,
Right.
And then overall, if you guys are interested in what I've got going on, 5280 Adventures over at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, type that into the Google and you can find me. Come on over and chat with me. And, as well as this, this video will be up on Saturday. So you guys can actually see our faces talking about the Grave of Gold and all that kind of good stuff too. So come on over and watch that, and I appreciate all the support.
Yep. And after about a year off on YouTube, I'm back doing the Weekly Dirt Show and some other types of videos coming out, and you can catch me over at Adventures in Dirt anywhere on social media. Just type in Adventures in Dirt and you'll find me. Hey, great guest coming up next Thursday. We have a world traveler, man. I'm telling you what, Nick West, it's going to be an exciting show. He's been calling in from UK, so it's going to be about 1 o'clock in the morning for him. We said, "You sure you don't want to record it?" He goes, "No, we're doing it live. I'm a bit of a vampire," he said. So I was like, "Well, let's do it." Yeah, absolutely. We're down for that. So make sure you tune in next Thursday right here, 8 p.m. Eastern on Relics Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. Hey, everyone, have yourself a great week. If you're not like us and you're not frozen, get out, dig some dirt. Have some fun, be careful, and tell me about it. We'll catch you next Thursday.